All right. So this is part four as to why Trump is the Antichrist. So let me jump into real quick because I've noticed a lot of there's really not many Christians that have identified Trump as the Antichrist. I've only found like three people on the entirety of the internet, and I don't know anybody in my own life that can identify him as the uh, as the Antichrist. And I noticed a pattern. The people that can, a lot of them they think we're in the tribulation, and they think that there is no rapture and all that. But let me just clarify a simple typology. So if we go to Genesis chapter 5, what happens towards the end of Genesis chapter 5? Well, Enoch gets raptured. Enoch is a Gentile, and he got raptured by faith in God. What happens, and again, what happens at the end of the 5,000 year dispensation? At the end of 5,000 year dispensation, right before Jacob's trouble, before we get to the start of the 6,000 year dispensation, the rapture happens. Okay? And so, what happens in Genesis chapter 6? Well, that's when Noah's told to build the ark and load the ark, and that signifies the remnant of the Jews that get saved at the very end of the tribulation, which marks basically when Jesus comes back, that marks the 6,000 year time marker, um, which begins the final 6 to 7 from 6,000 years to the end of the 7,000 years. And they get to repopulate the earth again. And then, Satan gets let loose at the end of the 6,000 years. Um, and yeah, basically, kind of history kind of repeats itself. So there is a rapture, and it is coming very, very soon. So let's start off with part one. So, well, point one. So, who can make war with the beast? In these last days, Trump is commander in chief of the mightiest military in all of world history. So let's read Revelation chapter 13, verse 4. And they worshiped the dragon, which gave power unto the beast. And they worshiped the beast, saying, Who is like unto the beast? Who is able to make war with him? So he is in charge of the mightiest military in the world. Now, that is going to change. If you read Revelation chapter 17 and Revelation chapter 18, it clarifies who Mystery Babylon is, and that is America. And it will be utterly destroyed in an hour by fire. That's a nuclear war. That's why we got Russian subs off both our east and west coasts, and we got nuke sniffers trying to find them day and night. And what's going to happen is this is going to be destroyed. America's going to be destroyed. And what's going to happen is, along with basically the West, and what's left of the West will morph into the one world government. And it will be ruled out of Jerusalem with the Antichrist. Um, and that's why they got to get rid of America and the West, because you can't have freedom and guns and all that. You got to remove that for the New World Order in order to take place. And if you study Revelation chapter 17 and 18, it talks about how there is an eighth Babylon. That's the New World Order. That's the final one. And it says the seventh is only around for a short while. That's America. And chapter 18 describes that seventh one, and it describes America down to the T. I'll probably make a video on that some other time later. But yeah, let's go to point number two. So the Antichrist has both militant followers and opposition he must conquer. In the last days, Antichrist Trump is both fiercely loved and fiercely hated. And let's read Revelation chapter 6, verse 2. And I saw, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. Now, we see that he's being propped up by Satan in these last days in order to conquer. Now, does Trump have a crown yet? No. Why? Because the church is still here. It's not until we get raptured that God and Satan, will permit him to get the crown and the authority to rule and conquer. And there's a big misconceptions about the antichrist. A lot of people think that everyone's going to love him, but that's not true. You either love him or you hate him. And it's crazy because when I say I don't like Trump, I think he's the antichrist, and I didn't vote for Republican. What do they do? Oh, you're a Democrat then. See, they got people stuck in this left-right paradigm garbage. There is no left-right paradigm garbage. It's Satan controls all of our government. So, and you see how people are brainwashed by all that. They still think their vote counts and they still think their vote matters, but it doesn't. It's the furthest thing from the truth. I talked about this in my previous video. Satan controls all the governments, and you're either a Democrat that fiercely hates him, or you're a Republican that fiercely loves him. There's usually no in between when it comes to this. Now, a lot of people will still worship him during the tribulation, and it's not going to be out of love. It's going to be out of fear. They might hate him, but they're going to worship him because they don't want to die, because he will cause everyone to take a mark, and if you don't take the mark, well, then you're going to die. He's going to kill you, send you off to a concentration camp or whatever. And that's just how it's going to go. That's why you don't want to be left here. The gospel is 1 Corinthians 15, verse 1 through 4. Jesus died on the cross for our sins, past, present, and future. When he died, he was buried and rose again on the third day according to the scriptures. That's all you got to do is believe, and you'll get out of here. But the gospel will change once this happens. Once the rapture happens, gospel's going to change. And it's, instead of Jesus laying his life down for you, you're going to have to lay your life down for him. We're in the age of grace. It's the easiest time to get saved. And so we're going to go to point number 3. This is another big misconception. So the Antichrist is the beast who lusts for things of this world. In these last days, Antichrist Trump has been unbridled in lust for power, money, and women. So there's always this big misconception that everyone thinks that he's gay. And so, okay, Trump can't be it. Well, that's not what this verse is saying. Let's read it. Daniel chapter 11, verse 37. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor the desire of women, nor regard any God. He shall magnify himself above all. So basically, he don't regard anybody, not women, the God of his fathers. He doesn't regard Jesus Christ. He doesn't regard any God. He believes he is God. So I know a lot of people misinterpret this, but it's not saying that he doesn't desire women. He doesn't care for women desiring him. That's the thing. It's not saying he's gay. Okay, so let's go to part number 4. So the Antichrist considers himself superior and magnifies himself. In these last days, Antichrist Trump sets himself above others. So Daniel chapter 8, verse 25. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, but he shall be broken without hand. Yeah, obviously he's going to try and to defeat Jesus Christ at the end of this 7-year tribulation, and he will fail. And that's just his pride. He thinks that he can beat the one that created him. That's the level of delusion and pride this man has, because he is the Antichrist. You see, ever since he's gotten elected, people say, oh, we can kind of let our guard down. Everyone's kind of going back into this peace mode. But the birth pains haven't stopped. You got earthquakes everywhere. You got like 57 wars going on across the world. You got two major wars, which is the one in Israel and then the one in Ukraine and Russia. Um, you got volcanoes going off everywhere, floodings happening everywhere. I mean, wildfires like we've never seen. There is no peace coming. This guy can't fix what's happening, because I know very well how, even alone just the economy. The economy's in shambles. You can't fix this. That's why they're going to war, because there is no way you can fix this. And he's saying he can stop wars. He can stop the war in Russia and Ukraine in 24 hours. No, you can't. Um, these countries got too much invested into this, and he talks a good game. He talks like he can broker peace, but it's gonna be a false peace, and he will show his true colors halfway into the tribulation. So let's go to point number 5. So the Antichrist destiny is to be the absolute dictator over all nations. In these last days, Antichrist Trump moves towards absolute power. So let's read Revelation chapter 13, verse 7. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And power was given him over all kindreds and tongues and nations. So it just basically tells you he's going to be a world ruler. He will subdue the kings that go against him, and he has to go out conquering, because not everyone's going to bow down to him. So he's going to destroy them, and he's going to morph all the players into one. And see, this is why you don't want to be left here, because there are going to be people that get saved during the tribulation, but you're going to lose your life, and he's going to overcome these saints, the ones that didn't receive Jesus before the rapture. You got, most people are order followers, and when it comes to their life, and when they're scared and they don't want to lose their life, they're going to toe the line. And so if you don't toe the line of the Antichrist, you're going to have police sent to your door. You're going to have the military sent to your door. They're going to haul you off to a concentration camp, and you will be offed. That's just the reality of it. Let's see. Part 6, point 6. Antichrist Trump is the prophesied Assyrian and Roman foretold in these last days. So I've seen so many misconceptions with this. People, they think that, oh, he's got to come out of revived Roman Empire, which that's basically what America is. I mean, look at all the architecture in Washington D.C., and it sits on 7 hills there too. You can look this up. Or no, he's got to come from the Middle East. Well, let's read Micah chapter 5, verse 6. And they shall waste the land of Assyria with the sword, and the land of Nimrod and the entrances thereof. Thus shall he deliver us from the Assyrian, when he cometh in our land, and when he treadeth within our borders. So this is talking about King Nebuchadnezzar, the king of Babylon, from the Assyrian heritage. He was Assyrian, and he was the one that was behind destroying the first Jewish temple. Okay, so Syrian heritage. Okay, so let's read Daniel chapter 9, verse 26. And after 62 weeks shall Messiah be cut off, but not for himself, and the people of the princes that shall come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. And the end thereof shall be with the flood, and unto the end of the war desolations are determined. All right, so who was the one behind destroying the second temple, the second Jewish temple that Jesus warned about during his ministry? Emperor Titus Caesar, the emperor of Rome from the Roman heritage, destroyed the second temple. Okay, so history repeats itself, because the Jewish people, just over time, they would eventually want a man to come fix their problems, and they wanted earthly kings. Give us Barabbas, give us Saul instead of Samuel. People choose their worldly king instead of God, and they fail to put their faith in God, and they put it in man instead. And this is why this happens. And notice this: After 62 weeks shall the Messiah be cut off, because Daniel's 70th week was postponed, and so they were scared. Once this happened, once the second Jewish temple was destroyed, the Messiah, Jesus Christ, was cut off from the Jewish people. So once they got conquered, he scattered them. That's why now the time has come that they have all been brought together. That happened in 1948, and that's how we know where we are too, along with many other things, because Israel's the time marker, and it's called Jacob's trouble, not the church's trouble. That's why the rapture is about to happen, and then God will go back to dealing with the Jews, because they were banished from their land for all that time, 2,000 years. That was their punishment. Now God's got to deal with them, and there will be a remnant that is saved. And another thing, so how does this tie to Trump here? So ancient city of Trier in the Rhine River region of Germany has the most heavily concentrated mixture of both Assyrian and Roman heritage. Well, guess where Donald Trump's heritage comes from? It comes from Germany, in that same area. And just to know, Adolf Hitler was from Germany, and we all know where that went. Adolf Hitler was another of the many antichrists that have existed throughout all time. Now, Trump's family, with all of his their Nazi money, they all immigrated over here after they got defeated in World War II through Operation Paperclip. And that's why you got a lot of Nazis in our government still. To this day, they got recruited into NASA and our DARPA and then the Pentagon and all these. They basically were absorbed into our government. And the reason for that is because if they didn't, then they would be hanged and all that and sent to prison. So that was the deal. You work for us, or you can partake in being publicly hanged and all that. And so the Nazi regime never stopped. It just transferred over to the next Babylon, which is us now. If you even look at the headquarters for the for NATO, it's literally got that lightning bolt. It looks like a lightning bolt, like what they used to put on the uniforms of the German Nazis. I mean, the Nazi regime has not stopped. It's just transferred. And they will continue to try and rule the world again, and Jesus Christ is going to stomp this out. So, all right. And so let's see here. And so point number 7. So the number of the beast is 666. This is the number acquired by the Antichrist Trump, who honors the god of forces, Baal, Beelzebub, Apollyon, Apollo, the sun god. It's kind of funny how he honors all these gods like the sun god, and he's got his dark, or bright orange skin, and he's got his orangish colored hair because he's trying to mimic, the gods he serves. Look in his if you look at pictures in his one of his buildings he owns, it's all the pagan gods all over one of his penthouses. Okay, so all right, so let's go to point number 8. So the Antichrist begins small and grows in power. Antichrist Trump began as a nationalist demagogue who is consolidating and growing his power. So if you read Daniel chapter 8 verse 9, and out of one of them came forth a little horn, which waxed exceeding great toward the south and toward the east and toward the pleasant land. So history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. So like, for example, with Adolf Hitler, the guy started off as a nationalist. A lot of people loved this guy because he came, as very charismatic. The Germans were suffering from World War I, from the reparations, and everything that happened after World War One, and they went bankrupt, and they were experiencing hyperinflation, all this stuff, same kind of stuff we're experiencing right now. The economy's failing, and the world is in shambles. It's not looking good. And so what happened with Adolf Hitler? He came in, and he was the guy that told everybody what they wanted to hear. He could fix all their problems. You know, he's gonna say he's gonna make everything great again. Same type of stuff. And he just arose as a nationalist, and everyone fell for it. People like to think back. How were they fooled by such an evil, vile man? Well, because they talk a good game and they act like they're good. They don't show you their true colors until they come to power, and that's what happened with Adolf Hitler. What did he start doing? He started invading countries, and they started appeasing him and whatnot, and he's promising prosperity to the Germans, and a lot of them liked him. And then what happened? He turned into a monster and tried to take over the entire world. And get this, what did he try to do? He tried to kill all the Jews. That's how you know Satan's working through him, because Satan hates the Jews. He's got to try to destroy all the Jews, because then it makes God a liar. He knows that if he can destroy all the Jews and kill them all, then he can make God a liar, and end times prophecy can't come to fruition, and he can somehow defeat God. But that's not going to happen. That's why God built up the Babylon of America to help come and save the day. God's used many Babylons that, weren't necessarily good, but in the end, they'll do their part, you know. And America's pretty much done its part, and now it's practically turned from God. And so God's going to deal with America, and America has to be removed so that way Israel can't rely on any other ally or anything. They got to rely solely on God, and that's what God's going to do. Okay, so let's go to part 9. So the Antichrist will be the master of deception. Charismatic big talker, Antichrist, Trump deceives many. And again, yeah, that's what he's done. Daniel chapter 8, verse 25. And he shall, through his policy, also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, and he shall be shaken and broken, be broken without hands. So, again, he talks a good game, and he's called himself the chosen one before. You can watch a video of it. He magnifies himself in his heart. He gives no credit to God, and he thinks he can fix the world. But again, Bible tells you not to put your faith in man. That's why a lot of people are being deceived by this man. Let's go to point number 10. So, the beast and the false prophet will cause the lost world to worship the beast. In the last days, Antichrist Trump wants to unite everyone under his lordship. So, Revelation chapter 13, verse 12. And he exerciseth all the power of the first beast, and causeth the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, which is the Antichrist, whose deadly wound was healed. So, this is talking about the false prophet, and that's why I think Elon Musk, without a doubt, is the false prophet. He's the richest man on earth. He owns all the Bitcoin. He's launching thousands of satellites into space. He caused fire to come down from heaven by allowing the rockets to come down and land and be reused. And he's launching thousands and thousands of satellites. He's been doing this for years now, setting up the control grid for the mark of the beast, because the internet will not be the same internet we have today during the tribulation. Most of the undersea cables are probably going to be cut. There aren't going to be no Wi-Fi routers anymore, no more cell phones. Everything was a totalitarian tiptoe to now. And out of the blue, you got this guy, Elon Musk, who's now in Antichrist Trump's administration. And there's no coincidence that he's now promoting Trump and siding with Trump and getting people to be deceived by Trump with all these things happening, knowing where we are in time, knowing the season we're in. There are no coincidences here. And so, like, for example, when all the internet's gone, what's going to happen is people are going to be begging to go back to normal. They're going to want their internet back. They're going to want food, water, safety, peace, all that. So what they're going to do is they're going to tell people they can get all that back, but they got to take the mark. And, when they take that mark, it's going to be a chip either in your forehead or your right hand. And it, instead of the internet being outside of your body, it's going to be inside your body, and they're going to control you through the satellites beaming in low orbit space. And this the thing is here. This is why people don't understand. Satan doesn't have a lot of time to get everything he needs to get done during the 7-year tribulation. That's why throughout all these decades, he's been having to put his chess pieces in place. See, and mind you, see Christians, again, they got, I'm talking specifically about Christians here. They got very short memories, okay? So they vote for him because he's the lesser of two evils, and he's got some great policies, and well, while we're here, we got to still have a good time, and let's try not to make it worse and whatnot. But they completely missed the fact that they voted for the antichrist. And he when he was in power in 2020 for Operation Warp Speed, what did this guy do? He deceived the entire world into taking the hokey pokey, which the hokey pokey, that was the preparatory ingredient for the mark. It's basically nanotech and graphene oxide that they're putting in your bodies, and it replicates really fast and self-assembles, and it's designed to take over your God-given neuron pathway system. So the only piece they're missing is the chip, which is the motherboard, which is like the brain piece of it, and it will communicate to the chip throughout all the nanotech in your body. That's why you're not going to be able to die in those days if you take it, because you're not going to control your own thoughts. You're not going to be yourself anymore. You will not be able to die. You're not. You want to commit. You're going to want to commit suicide. You're not going to be able to. It's going to be impossible because you're not yourself. You're controlled, and there's nothing you can do about it. And that's the hokey pokey wasn't the mark. It was the preparatory ingredient needed for the mark. That's why it was so important for them to get it in you, because then the mark of the beast probably wouldn't actually really work. And your boy Trump, that a lot of you Christians just seem to completely forget. You want to sweep it under the rug and act like it's no big deal. You don't want to talk about it. It's either a couple things, either because of your pride, because you don't want to admit you're wrong. You don't want to admit that as a Christian you would vote for a literal anti-God. You don't want to have to explain that to God, and you don't want to lose your followers. And it shouldn't take somebody like me to come on here that has no experience, has only been a Christian for a year, that has to come on here and say these things because nobody else will. Like for example, Chris from Global Rapture Watchers. I respect him. He's a really good watchman. I watch him every day. And he says all the time, okay, because he was a big Trump supporter back in 2020, but God, he literally said that God had to smack him in the head and tell him, Trump ain't coming back, I am. Well, let me ask you, if you ever watched this, Chris, why do you think that is? Because you were literally voting and siding with the Antichrist. He had to smack your head and get you to get out of your trance there. There's a reason he told you these things. I'm sorry, but that's the truth. And you'll never admit it either. I get it. That's fine. But I'm just telling you. I still watch you every day. You're a good watchman, but that's why God had to do that to you, because you were starting to get deceived by him. Revelation chapter 13, verse 8. And all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb slain from the foundation of the world. So, again, anyone who worships the beast, their names aren't written in the book of life. Now, that doesn't mean if you're a saved Christian now, you voted for him, you took the hokey pokey, doesn't mean you're not saved. But that's a good wake-up call for you. You're either hot or you're cold for Jesus. Now is not a time to be, lukewarm or even cold. And there's a reason for that, because when you're lukewarm as a Christian, you fall into Satan's traps. That's how easy it is. Jesus Christ is the rock. So if you want to be lukewarm, that's fine. If you don't want to, if you don't want to stay in your Bible, you don't want to see what's going on in the world, you want to go on cruise control and just think because you go to church every Sunday that you'll be fine. No. This just shows you how easy it is to be deceived. I mean, there's so many good Christians out there that have been deceived because that's the level of deception. And I still got a lot of respect for a lot of these YouTube channels, but like, End Times Dream and Visions and Derek and Chris from Global Rapture Watchers, but you guys got to talk about this. And I tried telling you I tried telling End Times Dream and Visions to Bob Barber. I tried telling him, you gotta. I've been trying to tell him this stuff so that maybe he could talk about it, but he's not going to, probably because he doesn't want to have to admit this. Look, there's no springboards to any of this. There's just not. Satan's got his pieces in place. Yeah, see, a lot of people have said, "Oh, I'm not looking for the Antichrist. I'm looking for Jesus Christ." And then that's fine. But you guys said that so much to the point where you completely missed it. And that doesn't mean you're not saved, but that's not good. During this time, there's going to be no good rulers. We got the most wicked ruler. And he doesn't come out of left field. He's propped up, and he's already primed for the public. And something like this needed to be talked about, and everyone doesn't want to talk about it because they don't want to admit. And that's fine. I'll come on here and talk about it. Let's see here. So let's go to part 11. So the Antichrist will confirm the Antichrist counterfeit peace covenant with many. In these last days, Antichrist Trump is confirming his peace covenant with Israel and many nations. So Daniel chapter 9 verse 27, and he shall confirm the covenant with many for 1 week, and in the midst of the week he shall cause the sacrifice and the oblation to cease, and for the overspreading of abominations he shall make it desolate, even until the consummation, and that determined shall be poured upon the desolate. So we already saw it. Like I said, chess pieces are already being put in place. That's why Trump was behind the Abraham's Accords. Satan's using this man to put the chess pieces in place. That's why this is why a lot of Jewish people love Trump. They got buildings and streets named after him. They got a silver coin minted with his head on it with the Jewish third temple. I mean, the Antichrist doesn't just come out of thin air. That's not how this works. And then so you ask, okay, well, then how are we still here? Well, let's go to Revelation chapter 6, verse 2. And I saw and behold a white horse, and he that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. Well, does he have a crown yet? No. But is he here? Yes. Just by default logic, he has to be. And he's going to take over when we're gone. Once the rapture happens, then God will give him the crown and the authority to go rule and conquer the world. But make no mistake, he's here right now. I'm sorry, this just is what it is. Let's see. Part 12. So the Antichrist is the counterfeit Christ reserved as the Messiah of Israel. In these last days, Antichrist Trump is being hailed in Israel as a savior. And again, kind of went over that. Let's go to 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 3 through 4. Let no man deceive you by any means. Let no man deceive you by any means. And that means no man. For that day shall not come except there come a falling away first, and that's clearly happened, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God, or that is worshipped. So that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. So not only is he going to show himself that he's God in the Jewish third temple, he's going to show he's God in the actual temple of your body. The mark is going to be inside the body, and then he's going to be sitting in the temple, in the Jewish temple. There's a dual interpretation here. There's two temples. That's why they got to get the mark inside of you. So there's a reason he said, let no man deceive you by any means. Because this man, Trump, is the antichrist, and make no mistake, he's here, and he has to be in order to take over as soon as we leave. And it's sad to see a bunch of Christians, they fell for this. Let's go to part 13. So, the Antichrist will prosper as a narcissistic, sociopathic liar. In these last days, Antichrist Trump leads the followers into his Trump-centered worldview, casting all the truth to the ground. So let's read Daniel chapter 8, verse 12. And an host was given him against the daily sacrifices by reason of transgression, and it cast down the truth to the ground, and it practiced and prospered. Again, there is no truth in this man. He is anti-God. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 10 through 11. And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they should believe a lie. And again, you see so many people worship this man because, why? They have not received the love of the truth. They want a man to come fix their problems. They don't want God to come fix their problems. A lot of people don't want to be held accountable to God. And so if you don't love the truth, you're going to be handed over to a strong delusion. And there's almost a miniature delusion going on with saved Christians because, there's a lot of saved Christians that voted for this man, and they still don't see what's going on. Like Trump literally just recently offered to morph Canada into America. See, he's already trying to conquer. This is what he's going to do. He's going to morph everything into one. The whole point of a court of law is when you're trying to convict somebody, you stack up evidence upon evidence upon evidence, and once you get enough evidence, you can prove somebody guilty. Well, how come we can stack all this evidence up, but then, just brush it under the rug? He's not the man. Well, we cannot see him until we're gone. There's no way. Well, you've been saying that so much to the point where you completely did not see him. It's not a salvation issue, but I'll tell you what, it made me sit down and think for a while, like, what is going on? Why am I only seeing this and a very few others? Where's the rest of the Christians that are supposed to be seeing this? And I can send as much evidence as I want to any Christian, and they just don't see it, and they don't want to see it. And I get it. Most people, when you try and prove that they're wrong in a nice way even, they just double down because that's just pride. And, maybe they just don't want to lose subscribers or followers. Or they don't want us to be seen as crazy, but that's the name of the game. You want to believe in Jesus Christ and you want to be more Christ-like. The closer and closer you get to the truth, the more Christ-like you get, the more ostracized you're going to get. That's just the name of it. That's the name of the game. Is it fun? No. But that's the price you pay for loving the truth. And I'd rather love the truth and be persecuted here than be loved by everybody and condemned by God. It is what it is. And that's the thing too, because when it comes to positions of power, like in governments and companies and even managerial roles. I mean, you always have the sociopaths and the psychopaths and the people who are power hungry that'll step on everyone else's throat to get to the top. You're always going to have those people at the top. Why? Because Satan is in control of the world. He props up evil. He is a rewarder of evil. So you're always going to have the evil type of people at the top of all organizations. And the only way to get there is by cutthroat. And so if you want to worship Trump, you want to vote for him, you don't, you want to write him off as just another guy, it you didn't get there by being a nice guy. You don't become a billionaire because you're a nice guy. You don't become the president of the United States because you're a nice guy. It's not how this thing works. The only time that you're going to have competent, serving, loving rulers at the top is when Jesus Christ is here. But until that happens, you're going to have nothing but sociopathic, crazy, narcissistic people running everything. And that's why the world's being destroyed. All right, let's go to part 14. The Antichrist is the wicked, lawless one who sets himself above all else. In these last days, Antichrist Trump sets himself above the law and exalts himself as the highest. Again, that's all he does. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 4, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. That's who this man is. He always takes all the credit, and he thinks he's the only one that can fix everything, and he's a know-it-all. Part 15. So the Antichrist glories in his name and comes in that name. In these last days, Antichrist Trump comes in the name of Trump and is received by many. So, John chapter 5, verse 43, I am come in my Father's name, which is Jesus, and ye receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him ye will receive. And yeah, that's what you see going on. People don't really care about God. They want another 4 years of greatness, and he can turn everything around. And mind you got people starving everywhere. You got wars brewing up everywhere. Your children and your grandchildren can't even afford to buy a house, and they're slaving away at their corporate jobs with no future. Marriage is in the gutters, 90% divorce rate. Oh, but we just want another 4 years. He'll fix everything. Well, okay, well, what about after the 4 years? I mean, this man's 80 years old. What then? I mean, if you don't love the truth, which is Jesus Christ, he will send you a strong delusion. He'll give you what you want, but it ain't going to be for your own good. And that's what's happening. That's why all these people are going to receive the Antichrist instead. So let's go to point 16. So the Antichrist has the mouth of a lion, making great boasts and speaking great things. In these last days, Antichrist Trump boasts and roars about the great things. Again, let's make America great again. Oh, I can stop that Russia-Ukraine war in 24 hours. It's all that comes out of his mouth is boasting, and he has all the answers. It's all this man does. And let me piggyback onto the last point too, because I forgot to mention it. When it says he comes in his own name, he literally does come in his own name. Look at all of his buildings, all of his hotels. Trump, 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 Trump this, Trump that. His name is everywhere. He literally comes in his own name. But anyways, let's read Daniel chapter 7, verse 8. I considered the horns, and behold, there come up among them another little horn, before whom there were 3 of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. Again, that's all he does. Speak great things. He's blasphemous. Gives himself all the credit. And when he was president of the United States back in 2020, look at the Operation Warp Speed logo and read Daniel chapter 7 verse 8. The devil blatantly puts it in your face. Are you going to see it or not? Or are you just going to ignore it? It's up to you. You can lose rewards if you want. If you don't want to speak up about this, that's fine. Lose rewards. I'm not. I'm gonna speak up about this. I've already got persecuted enough calling Trump the antichrist in my own family, and just being ignored by everybody else that I'm trying to deliver the information to. It is what it is. Revelation chapter 13, verse 5. And there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power is given unto him to continue in 40 and 2 months. Now, this is talking about the midpoint of the tribulation. That's when he goes ballistic and he'll start killing everybody. And when he goes psychopath and Satan possesses him. But again, he speaks blasphemies all the time. He like I've seen him say the GD word over and over, blaspheming God's name at his rallies. I've seen it many times. Yeah, so and then one more thing about the little horn. It's just like with Adolf Hitler. He came just as a nationalist. Starts off little, but then becomes greater. And he goes out to conquer and all that. Let's go to point number 17. So the Antichrist will be a vile person in these last days. Antichrist Trump is the vile, contemptible man of sin, despicable, ignoble, mean-spirited, and sordid. So let's read Daniel chapter 11, verse 21. And in his estate shall stand up a vile person, to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and attain the kingdom by flatteries. And that's all he does. He talks a good game. That's why a lot of people like him, and they think that he can fix everything, but we'll see that it's a false piece, and people will really see it halfway through the tribulation if they're here. Let's go to part 18. The coming of the Antichrist after the working of Satan with all power, signs, and lying wonders. This is how Antichrist Trump has come. So 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 9. Even him whose coming is after the working of Satan with all powers and signs and lying wonders. 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verses 11. Lest Satan should get an advantage of us, for we are not ignorant of his devices. And this verse really hits home, because I do see a lot of Christians are ignorant of his devices. A lot of Christians don't understand how sorcery works. They don't understand predictive programming. They don't understand like what they do in our music industries, in Hollywood. They don't understand what they do in symbolism and plain sight on TV. Like, for example, the Operation Warp Speed logo. Most Christians have no clue about Satan's devices. They're all very ignorant of it, which is why they're able to be deceived. God tells us these things so we can't get deceived. But if you want to ignore it, that's on you, and you're going to get deceived. I wouldn't want to be standing in front of Jesus and him asking you, "Why did you vote for the Antichrist?" I don't understand. I don't want to do that. But and even if he was just an Antichrist, like the many other Antichrists, why would you want to be responsible for voting one of those guys in? It doesn't even matter if he is the Antichrist. If he's just one of them, or just another version of one, that's unacceptable. That's why you can't play. That's why you can't play around and float around with this stuff. That's why you can't be lukewarm. You want to be lukewarm, well, there's consequences to this. You need to be aware of Satan's devices. Let's go to part 19. So, Part 19. So the antichrist is literally identified as the little horn in Daniel's prophecies. And Donald comes from the Gaelic name Domhnall, meaning ruler of the world. Again, no coincidences. Daniel chapter 7, verse 8. And I considered the horns, and behold, there come up among them another little horn, before whom there were three of the first horns plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of man, and a mouth speaking great things. So, again, even his name means world ruler. How many things do I have to relay to you to get you to understand? Or are you just going to continue to ignore the evidence? I mean, you do you, but... Part 20. The Antichrist is the antithesis of the Christ. He is the man of sin who opposes the Son of God. In these last days, Antichrist Trump is the opposite of Jesus Christ. And again, so if you claim that you know God, don't worship this man. Don't even, like, you can't just say you know God, but then you vote for the anti-God. That don't make no sense. And you need to examine yourself here. Because if you're a real Christian, you should be able to sniff this guy out. And you should honestly tell God you're sorry, and you should armor up better and know what the heck is going on. Let's read Revelation chapter 19, verse 19. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth, and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. So again, this is the battle of Armageddon. Trump's going to be so prideful, he's going to think that he can defeat God, the very one that created him. And yeah, that's not going to turn out well. Let's go to part 21. So the Antichrist will have enormous power and bring terrible destruction on the earth. In these last days, Antichrist Trump is poised to destroy and conquer with the world's mightiest war machine. Let's read Daniel chapter 8, verse 24 through 25. And his power shall be mighty, but not by his own power. And he shall destroy wonderfully, and shall prosper and practice, and shall destroy the mighty and the holy people. And through his policy also he shall cause craft to prosper in his hand, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand up against the prince of princes, by he shall be broken without hand. So he is in power of the most mightiest military war machine. Now again, America will be destroyed. He'll consolidate the power into a one world government. He'll go out conquering and conquer the ones who rise up against him. But there's no coincidence that he now has been elected, and he has been in the past. Obviously, with the first election, he's in control of the mightiest military war machine. Well, he's going to control one even greater, which is the entire world, because he's going to get all the kings to submit to him, and he's going to control all of it. So there's no coincidences here. Part 22. The Antichrist does not begin his rule by conquest. He comes in peaceably and becomes a national leader by flattery. In these last days, Antichrist Trump was elected commander-in-chief of the world's mightiest empire by winning over many votes. Daniel chapter 11, verse 21, and in his estate shall stand up a vile person to whom they shall not give the honor of the kingdom, but he shall come in peaceably and obtain the kingdom by flatteries. And again, this is what he has done. He can talk a good game, just like all the many other antichrists, and people, they want a strong ruler that seems tough, that talks a good game, and they got worldly accomplishments. But again, those are like the people you need to run from, because if you're very successful in this world in terms of money and power and ruling over others, you got to ask who's really behind you, and it's probably Satan, because you just don't get to these positions unless you're doing bad stuff. It's just that's how this world is run right now. Satan is the prince and the power of the air. Let's go to part 23. So, the Antichrist, the beast, once was and then was not. In these last days, Antichrist Trump is already beginning to be identified with Julius Caesar. So he's identified with, he's identified with many Antichrists. They're all the same. They're all different, but in reality, they are all the same. They all do the same stuff. They're all a little different because they rule different empires and different times and have different heritages. And he kind of resembles Julius Caesar because he's got that, Roman blood heritage along with the Assyrian heritage too. But he's being revived in a revived Roman Empire, which is America. I mean, we're founded off of Roman laws and Roman architecture. Like, look at all the Art Deco architecture in New York City and all the architecture in Washington, D.C. It sits on 7 hills in Washington, D.C. Like, all this stuff. Like, history doesn't repeat itself, but it rhymes. It's always very eerily similar. Again, that's kind of how I know, like, World War III is about to start. I mean, what happened with Adolf Hitler? He started invading small countries, and everyone tried to appease him. And, all these other countries, the Allies, were sending in weapons and money to help try and thwart him, but they didn't get involved. Same things happening with Russia, Ukraine, and NATO. It's the same stuff. Putin's going in, trying to take the land of a smaller country like Ukraine. You got all the allied nations sending money and weapons to help thwart them and all that. But when push comes to shove, it's going to turn into a big war. And how long did that last? We didn't, back in World War II, World War II, it wasn't even called World War II till like 2.5 years in. Once basically we got attacked by Pearl Harbor, when Japan attacked Pearl Harbor. So the war went on for about 2.5 years before it went global. It's the same thing right now. This war's been going on. This war has been going on for almost 3 years now. So, and when push comes to shove, because there's a lot of money involved, you got all these power structures, all these power factions fighting for a new world order and power. When it gets to a certain point, the gloves come off. And people just haven't figured it out yet. And they haven't studied history, which is why they don't understand these things. They don't understand that we got nuclear missiles pointed at us and can get here in a matter of minutes. They think that we're going to have to be invaded. Now, that'll happen like way later after most Americans have killed each other. So, it is what it is. So, part 24, the Antichrist, like all Antichrists, denies the Father and the Son. In these last days, Antichrist Trump denies the Father and the Son. Donald Trump quotes, "I don't like to have to ask for forgiveness. I don't bring God into that picture. I don't." And he's quoted saying that. I watched the video. It's pretty disgusting. He ain't no Christian, and he don't like Christians. He's not a lover of the truth. He calls himself the chosen one. He makes quotes like the one I just described. Somebody in an interview asked him, "What's your favorite Bible verse?" He couldn't even name it. Someone asked him, "How do you get to heaven?" He just said, "You got to be a good person." This dude is Antichrist. Let's read 1 John chapter 2 verse 22. "Who is the liar but he that denieth that Jesus is the Christ? He is Antichrist, that denieth the Father and the Son." So basically anybody that denies, it's not just Trump who is the end times Antichrist, but anybody who denies Jesus Christ is Antichrist. There's no coincidence that on the 6th day of creation, God created man and beast. And what were their numbers? Both the beast, the Antichrist, is 666. What's the number of man? 666. He also created, the beasts of the earth, like cows and sheep and all that. What's their number? 666. Basically, until you are born again and you have the Holy Spirit, your number 666. You're no different from an animal. The only difference between you and an animal is your intellect, and you still have God's moral compass written on your heart. But you're still got the nature of an animal. You want to see people can talk a good game and they can all say they're good people. You watch in the tribulation period, these people that say they're good and they pay their taxes and they they help their neighbors out, they help their little old grandma carry the groceries in. These people will turn into vile human beings. They will turn into monsters, and because it'll be um, life and death, these people will basically be monsters. They'll turn into animals, and they'll have that animal instinct because they don't have the spirit of God in them, and they're the same grandma that they helped carry in her groceries. They'll kill her and take those groceries back. I mean, they're not good people. You're not good. The only time you're good is if you believe in God and what He did for you, and basically you get the imputed righteousness from Him imputed onto you through the Holy Spirit through belief. You'll see very soon when there's no internet and barely any food and power, these people will kill you over a Snickers bar. And that's why their number is 666. They don't have the Spirit of God in them. And there will be a chance of redemption, but it's going to be a lot harder if you don't believe in God now and you get left here. So I'll just end with Psalms 118, verse 8. It is better to trust in the Lord than to put confidence in man. Again, that's why you got to put confidence in God, because put your trust in the Lord rather than confidence in man, because you will be led down a path of destruction. Broad is the path of destruction, narrow is the way to heaven. Why is that? Because Jesus Christ is the only way. It's not hard. It's not hard to get into heaven. It's very easy. But there's just only one way, and that's through Jesus Christ. You can have 100 million different ways to get to hell, but there's only one way to heaven. You got a lot of... That's why I stick to the King James Bible, by the way, because there's so many corruptions in all the other Bibles, but for example, in the King James Bible, basically that verse that talks about there's only one way to get into heaven, instead of it says there's one way to get into heaven, it says very difficult is the way. No. See, it's not difficult. See, they try to make you believe in the law. No, you believe in Jesus Christ's finished work on the cross to get you in. It's not difficult. There's just the King James Version tells you there's only one way, not that it's difficult. But anyways, this concludes part 4 of why Trump is the antichrist, and we'll see you in the clouds.